Hey, this is Christopher Armitage with the Existentialist Republic. I'm here with Troy Hewitt. Troy, how you doing?
Hey, buddy, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, it's been quite a learning experience since I've been here in Minneapolis over the last week.
Yeah, so you've been there for about a week, yeah?
Yeah, it's been a week. I flew in and just put a shout out on the Substack asking if anyone could help show me around. And so I got here and wasn't sure what to expect, but
Yeah.
got picked up in a minivan from a local activist and have it's just been a whirlwind since then.
Well, what's great about the fact that you're there on the ground is that you are connecting with a lot of really phenomenal people who have been showing you around, who've been kind of connecting you with local happenings. Um, and folks probably have seen, when I saw it, I was like, all right, how do we get there? But when, you're walking down the street, using your phone, capturing some video, and you come across an ICE agent who mutters something to you about being slick, thinking you're slick or something, like you were secretly trying to film him without his knowledge, and then it kind of escalated. Yeah,
It did. Yeah, they're very sensitive.
yeah.
Very, very sensitive.
It's
And
almost snowflakey out there in the snow. Yeah,
they melt so easily. It's interesting too, because I heard a lot of people screaming Nazi, Gestapo,
there's someone screaming it right over
murderer.
your shoulder in that video.
Yeah, yeah.
And what
Someone
did
was
you
walking
say?
by me and or behind me and was screaming that stuff. And I was just trying to, I was like, cool, I'm gonna be the gray man. We'd done some filming the day before at
Yeah,
another protest outside of the Whipple building, which they do a lot of staging out of. And so when I was doing that, I said, okay, I'm gonna stand away from people who are maybe agitating the situation more, and I'm just gonna hold my phone near my chest and just kind of stand here and be an observer. I'm trying to be a good journalist rather
yeah.
than go into full activist mode. And this guy, like, oh, you think you're slick there? And it rapidly escalated to me saying, it'd just be great if you didn't, I don't want to get shot. And with my hands up and being screamed, he screamed at me, "Make America great again, bitch." And
Yeah.
I said, "I okay, okay." And I said, "Do you want to get arrested? Or do you want to get
Hand on gun,
arrested?"
the
And I
man.
said,
The man was hand on gun.
yeah, one hand on gun, one hand on baton, and another K officer came out and was moving towards me as well.
Yeah, it
Because I
sounds like
said,
a
I don't want to
friend.
get shot. Please don't shoot
Yeah,
me.
right. Yeah,
It's
and then
really
he's
interesting. They're saying it in a calm voice, and the people who were screaming Nazi at them, it's like they couldn't even hear it. But just please don't shoot me agitated them more than anything else I'd seen the entire week since before or since.
well, because honestly, they knew that they couldn't shoot you, but they are Nazis, so, they can't really get mad at that.
Yeah. They
They
were ready
can
to beat me though. And I just had to
absolutely,
shut. I was like, okay, cool. I need to shut up and back away. And that ends this situation.
absolutely, absolutely nuts. What is amazing, though, is how much is going on activism-wise, because in the videos that I've seen and the conversations that we've had, it's not just your standard issue folks who go out there and fight for rights and march in the street. It is the whole community. Like, isn't everybody out there up in arms? And you were talking about the diversity of people just walking to this protest. It really was the whole village.
Absolutely. We were when we the main march, which was inherently a less confrontational event, more of a
Yeah.
community oriented gathering. We were parked 3/4 of a mile away from the main road where it was happening, and there was no parking to be found. And
Yeah.
every block was just packed with people, and I mean, babies, and whole families, and every race, color, nationality you could imagine, and gender identity, different flags, and it was really the community coming together. And I've heard some people out here. This one college student who we gave a bunch of flyers to, he just overheard a conversation that I was having during an interview with a state Senate representative or state senator and a
Yeah.
state House representative. And he waited for the interview to be done very respectfully and then asked for more information. And we gave him a bunch of flyers. And he said, "We're Minnesota strong." And there really is, I swear, there's this feeling here among this community that I find to be, they're uniting
Yeah.
in this situation and recognizing that whether you're Somali or Peruvian or whatever you may be, or born here, whatever it is, this is a community, and there's a hostile invading force that wants to scream "Make America Great Again" while terrorizing people and feeling that they're above the law. And this community is coming together in an impressive and powerful way.
Yeah, it is. It really is impressive. It is, especially in light of how oppressive all of ICE's activities are, and they're doing it everywhere. It is the one of the most terrifying things that I have witnessed as a person on this earth. In real life, you've got people, jackboot thugs, kicking down doors without warrants. You've got people kidnapped from their jobs, from a funeral, from the hospital, from the court where they were going to become a naturalized citizen. And it's shocking. It is even more shocking when you see it in that video, that little clip. It was just so cartoonishly oafish, like just to see this guy aggro on you, uh, and to imagine you being a cis white guy, to imagine what black and brown people are facing when they come up against that. It's shocking. What happens now? Like what's next in this mess? Especially, well, let's start with Minnesota, and then we can talk about you, like where you're headed
Sure.
next.
Well, I'll say in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, and the Twin Cities specifically, Minneapolis, St. Paul, I've gotten to meet activists, representatives, candidates, community leaders, folks from the Native American community out here. So many incredible folks representing these different backgrounds that are all aimed towards the same goal, which is to retain sovereignty and remove these terrorists and this state-sponsored crime wave that's happening right now. A lot of folks are desperate for somebody above their level, like somebody they elect to represent them, to actually step up and take a real action against
Yeah.
all this. The police chief, he's on, he's getting interviewed by the New York Times, and he's he's saying, "Oh, we made so much progress after George Floyd, and these ICE guys are really screwing that up." But I'll tell you, outside the Whipple building, the local police were standing side by side with the ICE. Now, the local police were more polite, more respectful, clearly had been taught what the word de-escalation means, and were
Yeah.
interested in applying that. It's my understanding that 80% of the local police department left after the George Floyd situation, and that was an opportunity to change a lot of the culture for the better, and that
Oh,
progress has been seen. But the fact is, these agents are destroying, there's no constitution here. The
yeah.
US Constitution has no value. The federal government, the Roberts Court, all these folks, they've all given up a sense of that. But I'll tell you an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I was talking to my brother who's out here with me, and he's Bashir, and he was mentioning how even as a young adult he had a lot of experience with police officers, where he would think to himself, "I know my rights. I have freedom of
Yeah.
speech. I have a Fourth Amendment right against unwarranted searches and seizures." Well, that hasn't been the reality on the ground for non-white folks ever.
Right. Right.
And this horrible, tragic, unfair moment that should have never happened is a tragic opportunity, because this is an opportunity for all of us to realize that when you allow injustice in any community, you allow it in every community. And from a law
Absolutely right.
enforcement perspective, and some of the conversations I've had out here involve that we went to Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm speaking from the lens of my life. I'm 33 years old, so I have more I wasn't around for Vietnam or Korea or even Desert Storm, but Iraq and Afghanistan, we killed 1 million people. There were not 1 million terrorists in those communities.
Right.
We were a hostile
Yes.
foreign entity that invaded and was unwelcome, and had ulterior motives, that we were willing to kill people in foreign countries, innocent people, men, women, and children, for the benefit of corporations and for oligarchs. And now that war is on the streets of America.
That's absolutely
From
right,
the
Chris. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry, you took me to church. I was just like, yes, that is so true. That
Well, and so we
disdain.
allowed it. We allowed it in other places. Even Nicole Good was shot as the officer was walking around the car. A facet of this that a lot of people aren't talking about is that Customs and Border Protection has actually been teaching their officers to do that for a while. So at the border, they'd say do laps around the car, so that way you have an excuse to shoot them anytime, because the car is treated as a weapon. It is a deadly weapon. And so they put themselves in a position where they can easily get out of the way and shoot the driver. That's what they're trained for. And we tolerated that at the border because it's brown people and people from another country.
Yeah.
Everyone in the United States is guaranteed protection under the Constitution. If we do not protect these rights for everyone, then we will all lose them. Everyone.
Even our guests, even our visitors, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even for the people we don't like, even the bad, even if someone's bad and evil and no good, we don't have civil liberties to protect the bad people. We have civil liberties to protect the good people.
Yeah.
But it only works if it's on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. So after the shooting, the murder, there was an outcry to arrest this officer, to arrest this ICE agent. And to date, what have we heard, or what has there been movement on that angle or effort?
Disappointing answer after disappointing answer. I'm not going to say sorry, that's the reality, because I'm not sorry about it. It's just the fact. Politicians inherently respond to the demands of their people, and they are never going to be more ambitious in their demands than the public intensely commands.
Yeah.
We decide where the Overton window is, and they're always going to be on the more careful end of it, especially when it comes to disrupting norms, even when it's the norms have been shattered. But nobody wants to be the one to escalate the situation. And so anytime you say, and we've distributed almost 5,000 posters around the Twin Cities and outlying suburbs with teams of activists calling for people to get in touch with Attorney General or Minnesota State Attorney General Keith Ellison, Governor Tim Walz, and Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty. These are the people who have the most impact and response. They need to be stepping up, and it's the state representatives can be demanding this as well, and the public is the ones who drive it. And so we put these all over the county and in surrounding areas and online, and we're calling people to get a hold of these folks and say we need an arrest warrant issued for Jonathan Ross. Now, when speaking to Hennepin County Attorney candidate Matt Pelican, he mentioned that we grant law enforcement officers, and I spent almost a decade of my adult life as a law enforcement officer in the military, as a federal law enforcement officer, and as a corrections officer. And what I learned from that period was, yes, you are granted authority to use deadly force when needed. And that is powerful authority, but that also should require powerful accountability. And as soon as you remove that accountability, you create a lawless class. Yeah. Now, law enforcement, there are law enforcement agencies, and there's going to be some people who watch this who might not love this answer, but there are law enforcement agencies that in the United States that do things with a much higher degree of efficacy and accountability than other agencies. Washington State Patrol, I think, does a pretty good job. They require that their officers have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Why does that matter? Because you should have an idea of what the law is when you're enforcing it.
Yeah.
Right? They also have DEI. They have ethics training. This is something the military police had too. They said, hey, we're going to give you annual training where we tell you if you pull another officer over and they're off duty, you write them a ticket, because if you would have written them a ticket for being anyone else, you should write them a ticket. All the same. Nobody should get out of trouble just because they're in law enforcement.
Yeah.
There are over 30 witnesses, over more than 3 videos. It is very clear what happened. An arrest warrant doesn't mean you are found guilty. It means that we have reasonable suspicion to arrest you. And there is no situation where someone without a badge wouldn't already be in handcuffs.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And so Who do you think is going to be the first state to arrest an ICE agent?
Wow, that's a good question.
I'm wondering if we want to, is it going to be, because it wasn't California. I
No,
suspect it might have been. I mean, that feels like, kind of a place where that might happen. Washington seems like another good one. Seattle.
I love
Um,
that question.
yeah. Who do
Yeah,
you think?
New York.
You think it'll be New York?
If I was a betting man, I'd put
Yeah.
my money on New York. That's a good question. Gosh, yeah. I wanted more people to ask that question, you know?
I'm really curious. I'm really curious who's going to step up and do the thing, because you're only hearing in the over the course of the last week, the rhetoric start to change to talk about, you have police chiefs on the microphone saying, if ICE comes here and breaks the law, that they will deal, we will deal with them. Um, it's language that is long overdue. It feels a little like they're trying to catch up and say, yes, oh yes, 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 when they break the law, we'll do the thing. And yet I have yet to hear of an ICE agent being arrested for anything.
You know what's really interesting is I've tried to propose some moderate solutions, and I love these folks. I'm meeting amazing people. In the next few days, I'm going to get to meet and have a conversation with staff for a state Senate majority leader who wants to talk about some of these policies. But
Nice.
they're used to moving slowly, and they're very, very scared of being the ones to escalate the situation. But the more moderate position that I think we could take here is to have an executive order issued for the police as well as to activate National Guard in all these states to follow ICE agents, find out where they are, coordinate. Sure,
Coordinate.
let's
Yeah.
coordinate. But the law enforcement officers, the National Guard should all have a body cam turned on. And they should require, because the ICE says that the DHS says they're worried about doxing. Well, they are, because they're bastards and they want to make sure that they can get away with crimes.
I
But
mean,
we're gonna,
that's exactly right. Yeah.
yeah. But okay, let's play that game a little bit. So show the police officers some sort of identification to prove that you're just not a random person trying to enter our community and commit crime. They
We've
put
seen
that,
this, right? You've seen citizens dressing up like ICE and
yeah,
just riding around town, harassing people, black and brown people.
yeah.
And for all we know, they could be ICE, or for all we know, ICE could just be a marauding group of vigilantes, running their own game.
Yeah, well, that guy screaming "Make America Great Again" sure didn't make me think, "Wow, this is a professionally
Well
trained
trained.
officer who represents the government." That seemed a little odd, but
Yeah.
that person is making a lot of money and a taxpayer money to beat and rob and assault and kidnap people and threaten to arrest people for saying, "Please don't shoot me." But the moderate position here that every one of us should be demanding, and if anyone doesn't want to do it, we should be asking them to resign, is National Guard, law enforcement, follow these people around because we need to end this crime wave that state sponsored crime wave. Follow them around, turn on your body cam, put the ID of each agent in front of your camera, hand them their ID back, make it real clear that you can identify them, even if they want to cover their face or whatever, which I'm not for. We should get rid of that. But there's a lot of lines here that we can draw. Let's come to the negotiation table. And then we will watch them do their job on camera.
Yeah.
And if they break the law, you don't even have to put them in handcuffs right then and there. I think you should. But I'm trying to find a place in the conversation because activists don't have long conversations with elected representatives very often.
Right.
And so I'm trying to have those conversations. What does it take for us to restore accountability? Because we have 4,000 people running around masked and unidentifiable, and they're never going to rat on each other around these communities, beating, assaulting, murdering.
Yeah.
There will never be justice for the people they hurt. And who knows where they're sending these people? Because I challenge you, go try to find some information about what's happening to these people, and you're not going to. You will not.
Well, and they're barring entrance or any sort of they're thinking that they can keep people out, even if there's some congressional oversight expectation, they're just not allowing it.
They're separating Americans from migrants because they
It's
know who's
terrifying.
going to have an ability to get a lawyer later and who isn't.
Uh, yeah, and the stories are manifold, and you've covered a lot of the much of these situations and the challenge that's before us. We've been talking for about 20 minutes. Let's talk about what's next for you. So you're in Minnesota right now. You are headed out. You're headed back home for a time, and then what's going on? What do you do next?
Well, a lot of this is going to involve keeping an eye on the news and
Yeah,
how things develop because if another situation, if there's another tragedy like what happened to, I mean, also, and Nicole Renee Good, Nicole Renee Good should be alive right now.
yeah.
But so it's Renee Nicole, isn't it? There was another shooting tonight. I'm also just hearing.
Where?
So that we're at
And it's Renee. Good. Yeah.
North Minneapolis. It's Renee. Okay, thank you.
In
Um,
Minneapolis?
right here, right here. What was the details?
The city's still investigating that.
13 minutes ago. Yeah. Federal
And
officials
the city is still investigating. They're still investigating Jonathan Ross. They need more
shooting involving
crime
federal
scene
law enforcement
details.
reported. Yeah. So about roughly an hour ago. What
More
is
people are going to die, and we are only going to have justice if we make justice happen.
that is absolutely right. And I shudder to think what we're talking about, but they are saying there is another ICE involved shooting. What's going on in
More
Minneapolis?
ICE murders.
Why are these thugs terrorizing this community? I'm just, you know why? I know why. It just struck me.
What?
I knew why, but I forgot for a moment because this is part of the make life difficult for the governor. Like they're
Yeah.
yeah. I mean
Well, I
they
think
are
also Trump has a vendetta because I suspect that he sees the George Floyd reaction that
yeah.
happened as a failure during his administration because he saw the disruptive behavior as something that he wasn't controlling, and it was a difficult narrative for him, and it made him feel weak and little because he couldn't make
I
everyone
think
bend
you're
to
on it.
his
I think
will.
yeah, on a broader scale, it's that it made him feel like how could these people disrespect me? I'm Donald Trump.
And there's
So
more murders, by the way. I don't know about I don't know. I'm just hearing about this
just
right
breaking,
now.
yeah, just
But
breaking.
there are videos that have been shown of people who the officers are kneeling on them and hitting
Yeah,
them, and then they're limp, and they carry the agents, the terrorists carry these people like they're a piece of meat, like they're dead livestock, and
yeah.
toss them into the back of vehicles. And if they are not Americans, we will never hear about that unless we go after them. And unless we need elected officials saying we don't just need Nuremberg trials 2.0. Right now, we need to be activating the National Guard. Right now, we need to be ordering police to turn around, turn on your body cams, and say, we will not let you murder our citizens. We will not let
Yeah.
you beat them. We will not allow this. This is
And we
justice.
also
And something I'm telling, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say too, with President Trump, what is he? He's cutting federal funding to Minnesota February
Yes.
1st. I mean, you've got this. You've got people being detained. ICE is detained. Basically, this is the president's personal death squad coming
Yeah.
in to rough people up, and until they capitulate.
They're also stalking politicians and activists out here. They're running activists off the road, and they're keeping tabs on politicians. I guess that probably isn't being talked about in the media, huh? I should talk about that
No.
more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you ought to.
Yeah.
Before we wrap, because I know you've got some travel time ahead of you, and it's late. What's going on? Like, what are some of the things that you have noted that the media is not touching on? Like, for instance, you were talking about ICE agents stalking politicians and activists. What else is going on? Any other elements or things that this shooting is really unnerving? That there was another shooting.
There's
Like,
going to be
what?
more. These
Yeah.
officers know they can get away with it, and they want to kill people here. And anyone who isn't like, I know you asked the question of what's not being reported on, but I just gotta say, I mean, it's just we are invaded and being occupied by a hostile military force, and everybody's tired of excuses.
Yeah.
We're tired of them, and now with this the funding cuts and refusal to give congressionally appropriated funds. There's a pastor's wife out here. She helps with ice block. They're doing everything they can to help migrant families and to help families that are being attacked. And it's everybody. It's not just migrants. And they have a 17-year-old son who has a trach and is very, very, very severely disabled, and this funding is what helps them be able to take care of it. They don't know what they're going to do, and so this is the cruelty. The idea that it's just we need civil, that they say we need civil lawsuits, we need to be careful because we don't want to escalate the situations and we don't want to end up with police getting in shootouts with ICE. No, stop trying to game 5 steps ahead of what ifs and just say we're going to stop the horrible things that are happening
today. Right. Yeah.
Today. Deal with what's in front of you. Stop people. You're allowing murder and violence and kidnapping and brutality and all these things because you're afraid of future violence. But the violence is here, and we're trying to stop it. And we need support from the people on the ground. We need support from the state attorneys general and from the state law enforcement, because there's lawlessness and it's only being allowed on one side, and it's being perpetrated to hurt the people who are most vulnerable.
That's right. Yeah. The cruelty is the point. Real quick before we wrap, I'm reading this. That this basically, there was at around 7 p.m. your time, 6:50, federal law enforcement officers were conducting a targeted traffic stop in Minneapolis of an illegal alien from Venezuela who was released into the country by Joe Biden. This article says
they're also not law enforcement officers. They're not federal law enforcement officers. Customs and Border Protection are not law enforcement officers. They can't do traffic stops. That's not how that works.
Let's see how this holds up. The narrative is the law enforcement officer caught up to the subject on foot and attempted to apprehend him when the subject began to resist and violently assault the officer. While the subject and law enforcement were in a struggle on the ground, 2 subjects came out of a nearby apartment and also attacked the law enforcement officer with a snow shovel and a broom handle. As the officer was being ambushed and attacked by the 2 individuals, the original subject got loose and began striking the officer with a shovel or a broomstick. Fearing for his life and safety, as he was being ambushed by 3 individuals, the officer fired defensive shots to defend his life. The initial subject was hit in the leg. So, yeah, then they ran into an apartment, and on it goes. Some other nonsense about how Governor Walz is basically encouraging citizens to attack ICE, and that there's hateful rhetoric. Gosh, this is just so wild to me. And so then there were protesters about 8:30 out in front of the apartment complex, and they were tear gassed. And yeah, it is now there's a large police presence and it's escalating. This is it. This is America.
Here's my message. Here's my response.
Yeah.
Leave. We don't want you here. I mean, not to speak for we. I'm telling you, this is what the people here. I don't live in Minneapolis. I came here just to be supportive and to cover the situation. But every single person says, get the fuck out of Minneapolis. We don't want you here.
Yeah. Well, on that note, why don't we wrap on this? Chris, I'm glad that you are safe. I'm glad that you've met some great people and have got some information about what goes on or what's been going on. Looking forward to you getting back home, and we'll just keep everyone apprised of your schedule moving forward. You got a lot of things coming down the pike, and everyone's really looking forward to hearing about what's next.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Troy. I'm glad we got to cover this. Look forward to talking more.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.